Pet Sematary, Bloodlines, 2023 release, available as of October 6th on streaming Paramount Plus. This motion picture was directed by Lindsay Anderson Beer. It stars Jackson White as Judd, or Judson, as he's called throughout.
Judson.
Natalie Allen Lind, who plays Norma. And it's got several supporting characters with actor names you would know and love. Henry Thomas, David Duchovny, Samantha Mathis. There are Pam Grier. I can't believe I almost forgot Pam.
Pam Grier.
Pam Grier is in this movie. And this is going to be a very, very short and sweet review. So, quick little synopsis.
Are you sure it's going to be sweet?
Oh, no. Okay.
I'd say
bitter? Maybe right. not even bittersweet. It'll just be bitter. So the synopsis is, in 1969, Judd Crandall dreams of leaving Ludlow, Maine behind, but he soon discovers sinister secrets buried inside and is forced to face a dark family story that will keep him forever united with Ludlow. Now, I am a huge fan of the 1989 Pet Sematary. It is in my top 10 horror movies of all time. I know it is not perfect. I know there's a lot of criticism about some of the acting in it and some of the other, but Mary Lambert's direction, the way it looks and feels, and when the atmosphere kicks in, and some of the legit scares in it are friggin' iconic. Would you agree with any of those statements, Tyson?
Not only would here's what I'll say about Pet Sematary, the original. I've only seen it twice in my life, and it's not because I don't like it. It's because it's the scariest fucking movie I've ever seen.
There you go. So this movie
I literally had psychological damage as a child. So it did its job.
It did its job. Yeah, it did its job.
Hell yes.
So this movie, I was wondering, was it going to be a prequel? Because it's a prequel, obviously, and anybody that knows Pet Sematary knows who Judd is and all that stuff. But this is a prequel specifically to not the 1989 film, but to the 2019, I think it was 2019 movie that came out. Yes. And you could tell because of the opening with the kids. I'm not giving you away. This is a very mild spoiler, but literally at the very beginning, they show some imagery that is absolutely from that prequel. So from that remake, no doubt at all. That's what this is.
I'll tell you right off the bat, then that affects how I feel about this, because in my mind, this was a prequel to the
it is a prequel. Yeah. Well, think about logic.
I wasn't thinking about that though.
But logically, it has to be number one, because this takes place in 1969. This specifically gets into a story. Here's the key. We're going to keep this very spoiler free and very short. This gets into a specific story that is told in the original Pet Sematary. It may have been in the remake. I've only seen that once, and I don't remember if it's in that one. But there's a specific story that Judd tells Lewis in the original that this movie essentially expands upon, which I will tell you on paper is a great idea. Also, and the reason why you know this has to be a prequel to the remake is because that original story took place after World War II. This is Vietnam.
Right.
So
yeah, sorry, man. I didn't that took me out of it right off the bat. That's the problem I had with this. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, you're telling me that this kid in 1969 is in his 20s. Because in my mind, I hear Judd Crandall. I think Fred Gwynn, not
of course you do.
Who is it?
John Lithgow. No one does. I'm sorry.
And I'm thinking you're trying to sell me on the idea that if I did the math right, that Fred Gwynn was in his early 40s. In the original Pet Sematary. Bullshit.
Oh, is that why you texted me and said we look pretty good? That makes you and I so much more sense.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I thought,
dude, I wasn't even thinking about the remake.
Yeah, but that inherently is the whole problem I have with this movie. It is the writing is not good. It is now maybe look, I don't know if there was interference with this movie and it originally had a much different script because it's only an hour 27 minutes, which seems a little weird that it would be closer to the 2-hour mark. So it felt between the editing and the writing. Movies are subjective. I know there's some people that apparently have come out and actually really liked this. Good for you. I am happy. Go with God. Bless your heart. I think for me at this point, if the script and it doesn't have to be perfect because, look, I like some movies that are hot junk. Okay, I admit that. But I go in with a different mindset, and a lot of those movies can be just fun for what they are. A movie that you're trying to do a prequel to, in my opinion, is one of the greatest horror movies, certainly of the 80s, right? I feel like you are held to a higher standard. and it doesn't have to be perfect. I was expecting perfection. I just was expecting it to not be a situation where we get these massive exposition dumps that aren't even attempted to seem like characters telling a character who wouldn't know. It's rather characters telling other characters who absolutely would know that information. And they might as well be talking and then just turn to the camera and go, "Hello, audience. Let me tell you a bunch of crap that you need to know for any of this to make sense." But by the way, it's barely going to make sense.
Break the fourth wall.
Yeah, and I would always have more respect for that. But then on top of that, the editing. I don't know if that jumped out at you at all, but the editing is so jarring. Look, modern filmmaking. I'm not saying I'm the epitome of this. I will make a movie again at some point, and when I do, mock it. I'm sure it will not be great. But I'm telling you, the one thing I understand is called a frigging master shot. Get an establishing shot. Spielberg would talk about in the early days that if you watch all of his movies, he tries to establish geography. Because I remember making this point in an interview. If your audience is confused about where things are in the spatial existence of your movie and your story, they're going to be spending too much time going, well, wait, how are we? And you don't want them doing that. This movie.
I don't want to go. Look. I don't want to get ranty, but are you specifically talking about the Native American friends, like their house in the sunflower field and the cornfield? And I'm like, I know exactly what you mean.
There's never a sense of like, look, had they spent the first half hour, first act of this movie really establishing the key characters, friendships, relationships, and then let's just say there's a movie called Death Dream. If you've never seen it, you absolutely should see it. It's a very low budget movie. It was shot in the 70s, 74. It has to do with a character that comes home from war under similar circumstances as this one.
And we talked about this.
Yeah, and it's dealing with at the end of the day, the subtext of the movie is really about war and Vietnam and what it does to people and PTSD and all that stuff. But they never explicitly say, because, good storytelling. And in this one, that could have been the same dang thing, but it wasn't. They didn't do any of that crap. Instead, we get exposition dumps, this bizarro, like we've got to expand the universe. Who cares? No one cared. It was scary when we didn't exactly know why. And by the way, they still retconned a lot of the elements of the whole Micmac burial ground thing.
Well, and that's the thing. You and I think, and any true horror fan, their threshold for fear and what gets to them,
sure,
is probably a little like, dude, I just watched this. I'm like, again, keep in mind that Mary Lambert's Pet Sematary, 32 years. I went 32 years between viewings because it scared me as a child that freaking much. Nightmares, the works. Like, I'm watching this going, can I get just something that stirs the fear? This is just
No, it wasn't. It was bullshit. And on top of that, most of the kills happen off screen and you see a little bit of an aftermath.
Right.
There's no effect. There's no sense of atmosphere. There's the thing.
And again, having only seen it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
off.
No,
go. I'm going to rant. So just go. You'll never get a word in.
So here's a perfect example. Like, I mean, God knows the original had plenty of scary elements. But one of the things I remember as being scary is Timmy Baterman. Man, like when he came back, it was almost like a Jason Voorhees. Like, he was not human. Like, I mean, he was,
but yet there was
something wrong.
There.
It was almost like it was almost like and another one that I love that a lot of people don't is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, when Elizabeth comes back and like she couldn't speak and she was just like,
the visuals
like, how dare you
really
bring
disturbing.
me back? Yeah. And this dude, it was I got to be careful here because yes, this movie touches on PTSD and some stuff. Being a veteran myself, I understand this, but the Timmy Baterman in this, take the fact that he was a veteran and all that part of it. Like, he was just a bitchy kid.
Yeah,
and I think he's a little bitch.
And I'll ask you,
know what I mean? Like, that's
do you think it's spoilery to mention him? Do you think that's a spoiler?
Timmy Baterman?
Yeah, but it's like in the first 10 or less minutes, right? That they well, actually, it's the opening.
No, I don't. And here's why.
Okay.
Here's why.
Okay.
Anybody that has no clue what Pet Sematary is not going to know who Timmy Baterman is.
Correct.
Anybody who's read the book or has seen the original knows who Timmy Baterman is and already knows
Yeah.
If they know anything about the original story, they know what happens.
Well,
You know
I for myself,
we haven't given away what happened to him.
I don't want to
other
be
than
a
I
dead
just
horse.
said he's a bitchy.
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit about him. It didn't scare me. And that was your biggest opportunity for a scare in this, I think.
Yeah.
It's him. Just
and look, I don't want to besmirch the director. She might be a wonderful person, and she might have done the best she could do. I think prior to this, I know she had done like a dark comedy and some other stuff. But here's the thing: Mary Lambert had done some music videos, like with Madonna, before she makes Pet Sematary. I think she'd done one other film that was more of an art film, if memory serves. She was not a horror director, but therein lies the rub, right? What she was able to achieve back then with what she had, and the fact that she came at it from where she came, there was so much more artistry to that film. And here's a key: anybody that wants to say, "Well, stop comparing it to the original," hey, guess what? You know what you don't get to do? You don't get to ride on the shoulders of a thing. And then when people compare your new version, your modern version of that thing, you know what? You don't get to do is to say, "How dare you? How dare you?" You don't get to do that because you're choosing to ride on the shoulders of that better thing. You better make yours at least come up to, and I wasn't expecting, you know why I'm pissed? Because I was expecting it to be decent. I went in with this mindset of like, I'm actually looking forward to this. The cast is exceptional. Did I mention Samantha Mathis? Samantha Mathis is in this. It's a great cast.
You did. So if you look at 2019, like 2019 wasn't a great film, but
I didn't hate it. Like, I didn't hate it.
I've only seen it once, but it was there was some stuff in there that it was like,
there were some decent moments. The cast was great in that.
I hate to rag on this, but
dude,
here's the way I look at established franchise, especially. We just got done doing an Exorcist believer chat as well, and when you've got established franchises and classic horror movies like this, God, it's almost like all we've seen, although it's not as bad today, I feel like, as it was 10 years ago, but we've had our share of remakes, some good, some bad, retcons, prequels, blah, 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 blah. The way I look at it, it's like a carnival game. Okay. It's easy money.
Yeah.
It's a ring toss. It's easy. Yeah. You're going to make money on it. So you can do whatever the hell you want. Now, occasionally you get somebody that comes up that's a ringer. That's like, holy shit, gets all three of them and they get that big jet. You know what I mean? Yep. That's your Top Gun Mavericks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And everything else, you just got to go in knowing that, you know what, hopefully this is just for fun. We're going to blow money because the kiddo wants to toss some rings and have a chance at winning.
But you know what you don't get to do?
But it's probably not going to happen.
You know what you don't get to do when you're tossing those rings and missing?
Tell me.
I'm going to tell you, Tyson. I'm going to tell you. What you don't get to do is you don't get to act like a friggin' victim about it and be like, how come everybody's being so mean about our thing that we made, quite frankly, unoriginally, uncreated? Like, Pet Sematary, like if you would want to base it on the book, like if you had, like, which is what the 2019 did, right? That was, I feel it's different. That's not really a remake because you're remaking a book. So that's a little different than a remaking an original property. This is a prequel. Which honestly, what really sucks is on paper, the story and the core of it. Had they gone the Death Dream route, and once you see that movie, you'll know what I mean. It would have been potentially great.
Or the 3 pages from Stephen King's book where he talks about this particular
or that.
Dude, but that's terrifying.
But that aside, my fanboyism BS aside, the writing is subpar. I'm sorry. None of the characters, I couldn't give a crap about any of these characters. The pacing was weird. It felt like in the editing was so jarring to me because I don't know where this memo came across. I remember I'm a child of the 80s, and I remember the conversation when MTV came about and how all the movies were, and the constant conversation. Well, they have to make these movies. The editing has to be faster because you see, all these kids are watching MTV, and because of MTV, they can't. Their attention span is not there. Does that sound familiar? Like, I don't know. These kids today, they watch TikTok all the time, and they can't watch anything longer than 15 seconds. Bullshit. It's bullshit. People, I've grown up watching old movies where the camera is motionless, or wait for it, it just moves, or wait for it, you block the scene so characters are constantly shifting and moving, and based on the subtext of what a character's doing is where you position them in the frame. But that requires effort and work. And I'm not saying they didn't put effort and work into this, but I'm saying what we got was not even, in my opinion, close to what it could have otherwise been.
It's really hard to come up with positive point. Pam Grier,
the music, there's some good music,
but even that, you touched on these big names they had, and talking about missed opportunity, like David Duchovny, Pam Grier, Henry Thomas, like not even you. I can't even say that. Listen, their performance at least, was decent.
I actually felt bad for them. I felt like,
it's like they brought nothing to it.
We're not going to have time to get into issues of character motivation and how many times I said the following, and I felt like I'd be speaking for them, where I'd be like, why would you do that? Like, why would you? Oh, and it occurred to me, because this is a prime example of the plot driving the characters, not the other way around. That is what this is, 100%. 100%. So I'm done. I'm not going to rant anymore. I'm actually, can I be frank? I want to see the director's previous film, because I watched the trailer for that before going into the new one. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, actually, this looks pretty good. I want to see, it's got Barb from Stranger Things in it. It looked good. So I'm questioning whether this was her or if this was studio interference and they realized they had jacked this movie up so bad and they threw it to streaming. That wouldn't shock me. That wouldn't shock me if I found that information out. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm speaking out my ass here. I don't know. But I'm just saying that wouldn't shock me based on what I saw.
To close on a semi-positive point for me personally, what I will say is, now that I know that this is a prequel for the 2019 film and not 1989,
you don't hate it quite as much.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
The biggest thing right off the bat. I'm like, why the shit is this set in 1969?
I have. Well, as soon as Judd had no main accent, I'm like, oh, he's John Lithgow.
That was the other thing, though.
Yeah,
nobody had a main accent. That was the other big note I made. I'm like,
they would have won me over had David Duchovny gone, I'm here with my son. Oh, if he had just done that, I'd have been good. I want to believe. I want to believe. Sometimes dead is better.
Joel,
we got to get that in there.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel like, in this case, then, sometimes dead is better?
As opposed to having to sit through this again, yes.
Yes.
All right, and on that note, let's throw our ratings. For me, it's a one-taper. I honestly told my wife about 15 minutes from the end, I said, if I didn't have to review this which I don't have to, obviously, but if we weren't reviewing this for the channel, I would have turned it off. That's how pissed I was.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a one-taper for me.
We were texting last night. We did a lot of clock watching, so I am 100% in sync with you. It's definitely a one-taper.
And honestly, I am not happy about this. And this is the key. Anybody that wants to just, be like, oh, you guys are being haters. Well, first off, one thing you'll get from us is honesty. Like when up to this point of the channel, we've been very positive about a recommendation is different than a review.
Right.
Yes.
It's different.
If we come out, if you see recommendation anywhere, that's something we probably love and we're gonna fanboy all over it.
Not only are you never gonna come into the shop, and not only are we never gonna recommend that you rent this particular Pet Sematary installment, I can almost guarantee you this is never even going to be on the shelf.
If it's ever available on physical media, yeah. But yeah, if it was, I would own it.
In our hypothetical world,
yes.
That's all I'm saying. Hypothetical.
Yes.
But the proverbial rental for this isn't even going to be an option.
Yeah. Please leave in the comments below. Look, tell me if I'm crazy. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. And look, at the end of the day, I'm not wrong. It's my opinion. I know. I bet, but the viewer, if you guys are out there and you think, what are you talking? And you can, and look, it's an opinion. You have your opinion. I have my opinion. So nobody's wrong or right. I get that. But tell me where you think I missed something. Because honest to God, if you could convince me that what I witnessed between the story and the editing and just the pacing and the weird choices that were made for characters that obviously were just trying to drive a plot forward and not trying to actually tell character-driven drama, which is what makes the original great, or even the 2019 version for that matter. If you could convince me, I'll listen. I will absolutely, obviously, do it respectfully. I mean, I get that I could be a bald-headed dick, but I'm just trying to do it respectfully. And do not spoil. We did mention a couple things in this, but we're trying to keep the review, especially on the opening weekend, of something spoiler-free, because truly out of respect for the filmmakers, after all the ranting I just did, out of respect for everyone who did put time and effort into making this movie, I wouldn't want to just spoil it for people and the viewers as well. So be sure to leave comments. Let us know. If you're so inclined, if you didn't turn this off as soon as I started ranting, please sure to share, subscribe to the channel. And I guess on that note, I can't think of anything else to say. And Mama said, if you got nothing nice to say, apparently I did not listen to her.
No, I think we ended it probably as positively as we could.